I can't. This is shocking to me.
Let's talk about your Bears. Yeah, I'm at 4. I mean, look, I think the guys around Caleb Williams are really good. I mean, this is probably the best situation a first overall pick at quarterback has ever walked into. It's definitely fueled by wide receiver. I mean, you have one of the best trios in the NFL with Moore, Allen, and Odunze, who, I mean, look, top 10 receivers, as we talked about with Harrison earlier, are generally featured players, and they don't even need him to be a featured player. Gerald Everett was a starter last year at tight end. He's a solid player. You bring him in with Cole Kmet. I like all 3 of their running backs. You bring in DeAndre Swift. I love Herbert as a rusher. Roschon Johnson was one of my favorite prospects coming in. And then, the offensive line, I have them ranked as an above average group, maybe even just outside the top third or right around that range. Jones and Jenkins on the left side, that worked out. Jenkins at left guard, I feel like that's been good. Darnell Wright, first round pick last year. I thought he was solid and could make a leap forward this season. Some question marks inside, but otherwise, I think you have a serviceable O-line, and I think you have a really good group around Caleb Williams. So I like this group a lot.
Yeah, I couldn't get them ahead of the teams that, again, have real track records of success with just offensive ecosystem. Vikings, Rams, Packers, like these guys who have consistently gotten the most out of their groups. The Rams and the Packers specifically, I think that those were clear cut ahead of this team for me. Waldron, I think, did a solid job in Seattle. I don't think he did an overwhelmingly good job. I think that there's some predictability to the way that they play. There's some volatility to the way that they play, but he's been a solid offensive coordinator. The line is fine. I expect Darnell Wright to be a lot better in year 2. Just those are the types of leaps we typically see from offensive linemen, especially highly drafted guys who showed some of the flashes he did last year. Braxton Jones is serviceable at left tackle. There are questions on the interior. Tevin Jenkins has been consistently hurt over the last few years, even though we've seen him play at a high level. Coleman Shelton is fine, and Nate Davis did not play that well last year. So I think in the best case scenario, they have like a top 12 offensive line. It could be much worse than that. It's hard to argue with the receiving talent. Like, maybe Keenan Allen takes a step back because he's going to be 32 years old and the track record of receivers that old is just not very good. But even if that happens, you have a Dunze waiting in the wings. Right. So, but the teams I have ahead of them, like I couldn't put them ahead of like the teams I talked about. I couldn't put them ahead of the Packers, couldn't put them ahead of the Vikings, couldn't put them ahead of the Rams, and I couldn't put them ahead of the Eagles. Like the Eagles have too many good players for me to give the Bears the edge over a team like that. If you told me they should be ahead of the Cowboys at 7, fine. I'm totally willing to concede that. But everyone's 6 and above that I have, it was just hard for them to crack that list for me.
Yeah, I mean, I do have the Eagles ahead. I feel like the top 3 were pretty easy to put them up there. But after that, I think all these teams were very close. But I'm buying into the skill guys. I just really like this skill guy group. And it sounds like I'm a little higher on the offensive line. But, I mean, look, regardless, I think like Williams walking into this situation, he should be able to put up some numbers. I mean, he should
even if it's 7. Think about that. Think about having like a top half of the league supporting cast when you were the number 1 overall pick, and not even in the top half of the league, just supporting cast. From a receiving core standpoint, solely, they're in the top 5. That is a disconcerting situation for me. Like I feel uncomfortable looking at a Chicago Bears depth chart that looks like this.
Yeah, it is unreal. I mean, I have Williams projected to throw 23 touchdowns in 15 games, and that might sound like that's not that high, but for a rookie quarterback, that is a high number. I mean, that's optimistic. I think his line is like 23, 24 in that range as well. I never would like to consider the over for something like that, but for Williams in this situation, he should get there. If he doesn't get there, it's probably a problem.
If he throws like 27 touchdowns, it's one of the best quarterback seasons the Bears have ever had. So,
or anyone, that would be the best. Oh, you're saying best ever in general.
Ever, correct? Not even rookies, just ever. Period.
That would be one of the best rookie seasons ever across the NFL. So, yeah.